Okay, so I watched this movie the other day. It wasn't a good movie, but I watched it. And it's a Ryan Reynolds movie.
Oh, I like him.
I like him too.
Yeah.
Canadian. Seems like a nice little Canadian boy. Yeah. And I like his wife.
I was just going to say, I really feel like
their relationship is cute.
Them.
Like
I feel like I could be friends with both of them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, the movie's called Free Guy.
Never heard of it.
Okay, so it's basically, it's like a video game. And he's an NPC in the video game, which is like...
non-playing character.
Thank you. A non-playable character. So it's just like background people. So those would be the people in like, for example, I don't know video games a lot, but let's say Vice. You remember in Vice, you could drive around, you could run people over with cars, you could shoot random people, you could do horrible things to all the NPCs around you. Okay, so in the video game, he is like a bank teller.
Okay.
And the video game is like AI, whatever. Like it's the whole algorithm of it is supposed to be that the AI like is learning and is changing as it goes on. So what happens in it is that his character becomes basically like sentient, and he thinks he's like a human being. Okay. And he like starts to sort of like realize. He just becomes like aware of himself.
Yeah.
And he starts having free will, whereas before he just would do what he was programmed to do in the game. So what I was thinking about was if life was like that, if life was like a video game. This is such a weird thought. I think I had smoked a joint. I think that's why I was thinking this. Okay, if life was like a video game and people regenerated, so what would happen is like someone would get killed and then they would regenerate right away, or he kept dying and then he would regenerate, like wake up in his bed, and he'd be like, what the hell? Like whatever. So if people regenerated, do you think people would start killing each other like at 100%. Way higher rates? Yeah, 100%. Right?
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Of course.
Like you would just literally have like road rage and you would just like kill the person.
I was just going to say, someone whom I know often complains about people driving and their lack of skills. Think about it. It would be easy because why would you even ban weapons anywhere? Because it doesn't matter. You're not going to kill anybody. So, you know, as long as you're not like blowing a baby in the head or something, you know what I'm saying? Like
it would just be chaos everywhere all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because there'd be no point to any sort of police system, or I guess maybe, but people probably wouldn't be like doing thieveries and things like that. The main thing is some sort of violent act.
Right.
Realistically, you know? And it just wouldn't matter. Like if somebody went to rob a bank and they went and just decided they're going to kill everybody in there. Right. You know what I'm saying? Like it wouldn't matter because they're just going to come back. Right. But then people also wouldn't be afraid to like fight them or whatever because I'm like, I mean, you're not going to kill me. So what are you going to do?
And that was the thing, like in the game when people, in the movie, when people that were playing the video games became aware that the player in that game, that we're calling him Blue Shirt Guy. Okay. When they became aware that he was like doing his own thing, like with free will, it was like showing it as if like it was like vloggers and YouTube people and stuff who would talk about it, and they were being like, you know, it really made me think how I treat the NPCs, and it really made me think how I interact in the game, and blah 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 blah. And you know, when you know people that are like really into like video games and stuff, especially like games where you can kill people and where you interact with other people like through talking and stuff through your little headphone thing. Yeah. They're horrible. They're horrible to each other. It's a very toxic environment that people are in. And you're like, I wonder, it just makes me curious as to how it would like translate into real life if people behave like that when they know there's no consequences.
So, first of all, this is really exciting conversation. You might think it's just Nintendo 64 over there, but I low-key am a little bit of a gamer with no game system. Now, I do have a Nintendo 64. You know what's funny? The other day he was like he was going to leave. It's PlayStation. He was going to leave it here, but then he took it because a lot of time he used it to charge stuff. And I'm like, why don't you just take my charger or the thing there then?
I said something about Chris having an Xbox the other day to Ahmed. And Ahmed's like, which Xbox does he have? And I was like, are there different ones? Don't ask me like I know. And he's like, is it an Xbox One? And I was like, is that the first one? I don't fucking know. He's like, that's the newest one.
Yeah,
and like,
ones.
You can keep saying things and I'm not going to suddenly know.
He has a PS3.
Okay.
No, I'm lying. Sorry. PS4. It's PS5 that just came out.
Oh, okay.
So he has PS4. The PS5 just came out and there was no new PlayStation for like years.
Okay.
So that's why it was such a big deal. That's why everybody was rushing to get it. They sold out of stock, all that. Next thing, Grand Theft Auto 5. Mm-hmm. The Grand Theft Auto 6 is what they're working on. But again, there hasn't been a new Grand Theft Auto for years. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of a huge thing. So Christopher, we'll be watching a movie. He'll be like, babe, this just reminds me of Grand Theft Auto 6. Just imagine when it comes out, it's going to look just like this. I'm like, you mean real life? It's going to look just like real life.
Real life.
Because the graphics in 5, like when you're over the water, we always talk about it. When we're over the water, it literally looks like real water.
Oh, yeah.
And it also looks utterly refreshing. Like I would, if I could just dip my hand and just drink some, I would.
Yeah.
It's that refreshing looking in the game. And then speaking of if there would just be straight carnage, we haven't talked about Carnage Island in a while.
I know someone DM'd me about Carnage Island recently.
Anywho, and because he likes to play online, I am a fan of story mode just because sometimes I just like to frolic through the game. Mm-hmm. I don't always want to be fighting people and doing all kinds of shaboobery. So he'll be like, there's like levels, and you can tell all the other characters that are playing, you can tell what level they're at by whatever number. Don't quote me. I don't know if this is exactly right, but let's, for argument's sake, let's just say like somebody will be at like 42. Okay. Meanwhile, Chris is at like 578.
Right.
And so he's like, this little guy, he really thinks he can come in. And then you'll just see him switch guns, and the little thing will pop up, and you just, boop, 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 and then he switches his gun. And then he like goes somewhere, and then he has a night vision thing. So he goes on night vision. He can see where the guy is. He's like, see, that guy ran in there because he tried to come get me, and he didn't. You don't see my number? And I'm just like, all right, honey.
I know.
He'll like sit out there, and then he'll be like, babe, watch this. He's coming out now. He's coming out. I don't do the accent because
babe.
Babe, watch this now. I'm gonna come out right now. I'm like, okay. And then he comes out, and then he like kills the guy, and then he's like, see. I'm like, okay.
Does he like talk to people on there or no?
He can. He doesn't usually, but he can. Sometimes he does.
Yeah.
The stupid thing is, again, with the controller and the sound and all that, when he's talking, the controller like hears it, and the guy's mouth in the game moves.
Oh, okay.
So you can, but he's not playing directly with anybody to like talk to them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, when he's talking, the guy's mouth moves. So he literally was like, "Say something," and I was like, da, 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 da. I don't know. I said something, whatever, and the mouth moved.
Oh yeah, video games are not for me.
I mean, okay. I will say that there is a part of me that wishes that I could have my friends get Call of Duty and we go and we're like super badass and we're like we're the people that you don't want them to call.
I'm not good at video games.
You could be.
No, I couldn't.
I believe you could.
I'm not coordinated in that way. It's not like I haven't played video games for years.
Furniture.
Doesn't mean I can play a fucking video game.
To me, it does. The things in your brain are there.
When we were kids, we would play them all the time, and I never got good at it.
I mean, I'm a little bit of a sniper, not to toot my horn.
Yeah, I'm not.
Oh, man.
No matter how long I play it, I cannot remember what the buttons do. Okay, so I'm literally one of those people that just mashes all the buttons and then someone kills me and I'm like, oh, this is so fun. Okay, so welcome to Why'd I Do That?
I'm LaShonda.
I'm Sarah. This is part 2 of a 2-part episode. So if you haven't listened to part 1, you're going to want to go back to episode 39 and give that baby a listen.
Now, we left off at quite the precarious situation.
Yes. We were just being introduced to a gentle, kind soul named Tim Bosma.
Yeah. Now, this is also where I picked up on what the story really was about.
You actually remember this because this is local to us. This happened in Toronto.
It's huge. It was a huge thing at the time. Yeah. I remember it like it was yesterday.
All over the news, like when he went missing, and then the days that followed, what happened. Man,
I felt it for his wife.
Oh, Charlene.
Charlene, first name basis.
Yeah.
Good. Charlene.
Yeah.
She did this interview, and I was just like, oh my gosh, my heart.
I know.
And then you just don't think. And then I remember she was saying that he like just waved her and was like, yeah, I'll be back soon, something like that. And then...
You gonna tell my story for me?
Sorry.
So Tim Bosma, by all accounts, a lovely man, church-going husband, father, son, was a contractor with his own business, never hurt a soul, didn't mean anyone any harm, just a very sweet man with a wife and a baby from Ancaster, Ontario, which is in Hamilton. It's about an hour, like, southwest of Toronto. So... It's May 6, 2013. May 6 is my sister's birthday.
What's up, Kate?
So, Tim, like the other guy that we talked about in the last episode, Igor, Tim had also posted his Dodge Ram truck for sale on Kijiji. Yeah. Why they were picking this particular truck, I guess they wanted to steal the truck. That was part of it.
It must have been part of it. Probably for, what was his name? Smich. Because he ain't got nothing.
Yeah.
So he probably wanted it.
Yeah, I guess they were going to do something with it.
Maybe it would be easier to transport things.
Maybe.
Bodies.
And it was like particularly a diesel truck. Like, I don't know. But they picked out 3 of them. 3 of the same basic truck. And they contacted 3 different people.
Because I didn't really think about that until you said that just now. And then there's countless people selling vehicles. You know what I mean? And you probably could have picked like a little old lady that's selling her like, Toyota Corolla. Yeah. And then it would have been very easy, very simple to just, you know what I mean? They were hunting. Yeah. They were definitely hunting.
And one of their friends testified later that before it happened, they said to him, oh, we have 3 options or something. Should we pick the nice guy or should we pick the guy that everybody hates?
Are you effing kidding me?
Yeah, but it was like very cryptic. Like the person didn't know what the fuck they were talking about.
That actually really infuriates me. It really infuriates me because, like I said, I won't tell your story for you. But when that whole thing happened, the whole GTA was rocked. Yeah, you know what I mean. Like everybody was infuriated. Everybody was saddened. It was such a big thing.
It was huge.
And then now that I'm learning the behind the scenes of it, I don't think most people knew the beginning, like the first episode of this story. Yeah. I don't think anybody had that information because it was the first. That's why I never recognized it until you got here.
Oh, I didn't know about that at the time. I only found out about that years later. Like, I knew about it before researching this, but I didn't find out about it until probably 6-7 years after it actually all happened.
I'm just hearing it today for the first time that happened. So now all the more so, I'm like, these stupid idiots, a stupid wannabe rapper, and this ignoramus that doesn't know how to like just not document all of his crimes. Yeah. Which in hindsight now, good because you got caught and you're going to Carnage Island.
Yeah. And there's like literally no way for you to negate that this was your intention all the way along. Okay. So anyway, Dellen and Mark arranged to meet Tim at his home in Ancaster. So it's getting later and later in the day on March 6th. And Tim, according to Charlene, his wife, Tim is like feeling apprehensive. He's like having a bad feeling about it, which is his intuition obviously kicking in. Yeah. Which again, we've said it before, we'll say it again. Nothing is worth risking your life over. So if you have intuition, even though it might not, it might screw you over in some way. Yes. Charlene would tell you nothing is worth not following your intuition.
Because what's the worst case scenario? You don't go to that party. Maybe you call in that day and you're like, I'm not coming to work.
Literally, there's an interview with Charlene where she says, for us at the time, our worst case scenario in our minds was if we send them out to do this test drive and the truck doesn't come back, that's the worst thing that could happen to us right now.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that's what you would think. Like, hey, you get out, I'm taking the vehicle. You know what I mean? You did not have to do anything with the person. Yep. I'm trying to not give it away here, just in case people don't know the story.
So hours go by, and the 2 men finally show up at Tim and Charlene's house. Charlene and Tim go outside, they meet them in the driveway. They tell Charlene, a friend had dropped them off because they literally walk up the driveway. They told them they're coming from like a good hour away or whatever. And they both said to each other that it was like weird that these two guys just come walking up their driveway.
Yeah.
And they're like they're not in the middle of nowhere, but they're in like a very sort of like spaced out suburban kind of area.
Like, you're in Toronto where the TTC...
you just came from the bus stop.
Yeah, exactly.
No. So they said, a friend dropped us off. And so despite Tim's like instinctual bad feeling that he's having, Charlene knows that they need the money. They want to get rid of the truck. The truck's just become like a drain on them. It's costing money to fix. It takes a lot of diesel. They don't need that big of a truck, so they want to get rid of it. They want to get a smaller car.
Yeah.
So she, and this is probably like her nightmare that she relives constantly, she encourages him to go. Again, thinking the worst case scenario is that the truck won't come back.
Yeah.
You don't send your husband out. Like maybe, a husband isn't going to encourage his wife to go somewhere, but you don't send your husband out somewhere thinking like something awful is going to happen to him.
100%.
People are going to murder him or whatever.
Yeah, 100%.
So over the next several hours, Charlene repeatedly calls Tim's phone to no avail. She knows for a fact that he has charged it. And so she's like, something's very wrong.
Yeah.
His phone could not have possibly died. So after hours of unanswered calls and no contact from Tim, she calls the police and she reports Tim missing.
Oh, my heart. Yeah.
So the police start a search like pretty immediately.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, they
Like
search.
this whole, we have to wait 24 hours.
Right, because Tim is a family man. He's a church-going man. He's not a Laura Babcock where she's intentionally engaging in risky behavior, so she must purposely be missing. She must be choosing to be missing.
And realistically, that also doesn't make sense because for the phone thing, if you think about it, an escort, that's how they're making their money. Someone has to contact them from their phone. So if you can't get a hold of that person on the phone, you know what I'm saying? All the more so I feel like that would
Not only that, but like if somebody is in that lifestyle, they're at more risk than anyone else.
I guess they feel like, well, if it happens, it's bound to happen inevitably, for one. For two, we'll just find who did it after.
Right.
But they don't think about the fact that there's time right now to find them and find them alive.
Well, and I think when you're a cop, you probably more often than not have these reports come in and then the person does show up 1, 2, 3, a week later.
After they've been on a bender?
A bender, yeah. They do show back up probably most of the time.
Yeah, yeah.
So I can see where they're coming from, but at the same time, like, how many times has this happened where because you didn't take it seriously at all, you didn't even glance into it, which I understand. They've got a lot on their desks. They've got a lot to do.
Yes. However, you know what the thing is? Obviously, we know in this case, even if they had have immediately, it was too late anyway. But this could have saved the next person's life because that person, especially in this scenario, they had all the evidence. They're putting it out there. They've got a whole soundtrack for what they did. If you had just looked into it a little bit more, then the hindsight of it all would have prevented further, sadness.
Right. So, as I said, the police start a search investigation pretty quickly, and they treat the case as a missing person with unusual circumstance. Okay, so search and rescue use canines to search the entire area around Tim and Charlene's home, and the police hold a press conference the day after Tim is reported missing. Very quickly, thousands of people are sharing the articles and videos on social media, obviously, talking to each other. It's on the news.
Kind of went viral in a sense.
Oh, yeah, as we were saying. It was huge. It was massive news. Like, that's not something that happens very frequently, especially not to a man.
Yeah.
I think that was probably a big unique aspect of it. So thousands of people sharing this. Family, friends, neighbors, strangers, people are spending time and effort looking for Tim. Like, people are out search parties looking for this man.
It was really a time that communities rallied, and it was kind of nice in that sense. It's unfortunate, but it was.
Well,
it was
he's
definitely
everybody's dad. He's everybody's brother. He's everybody's friend. He's just a regular guy who something obviously horrible has happened to him. We just don't know what, and we don't know where, and we don't know how. So all these people are helping to look for him, but little do they know their efforts are in vain. because Tim had been murdered shortly after leaving the property with the 2 demons that he had come upon that night of May 6th. So the investigation continues, and Tim's deactivated cell phone is found in an industrial area in Bradford, about an hour and a half north of Tim's house.
Why do they keep doing that with the phone?
I don't know, but it was like the next day they find this phone. It's an hour and a half north in Bradford. There was no reason, but from what I know, they didn't go up there. So I feel like they must have just like given it to one of their friends and been like, oh, when you're driving up there or whatever, like go toss this somewhere. I don't know who. I don't, there was never any mention of like maybe who did it or whether or not their phones also went up there. I didn't see anything like that. So I feel like they must have given it to a friend. So from this information, they figure out that the phone number is connected to a burner phone.
Okay.
They pull the burner phone records, and they find that burner phone has called 2 other numbers, which they reach out and contact.
I have a question.
Yep.
I always hear about burner phones, and I don't know, I always see them in the States, right? Now, they paint the picture like it's just like a little random phone that you can get at the gas station, and you just put a little SIM card in and you're good to go.
Yeah.
And then you throw it away because it's a burner.
Right.
Now, here in Canada, you can't do that. I don't even know if you really can do that like that in the States, but that's how they paint the picture, you know?
No, I think you can do it here. It would just be like you would literally buy a phone anywhere, and you don't need to make an account because you just do like pay as you go.
Yeah.
So it's basically like having like a phone card. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
So you probably have to put like a name or whatever, but you don't have to put your name. You just make up a name because you wouldn't need ID or anything for it.
That is true. Okay.
So one of the phone numbers that the phone called, besides Tim, is Igor Tumenenko.
Ooh, full circle.
So, yes, they contact Igor, and they say to him, this is the circumstance. You know, he had already heard about the stuff that was going on with Tim because everybody had heard about it. And so they say, this phone number contacted this man. It also contacted you the day before he went missing.
Imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
So Igor obviously remembers this pretty clearly. It wasn't that long before.
Yeah.
It was like literally probably like a week or 2 before he had the test drive with them.
Yeah.
And so he describes to them his experience of what happened, and he describes in pretty good detail the 2 men that he met on May 5th.
Yeah.
So his detailed description matches Charlene's general description of the 2 men. And so they're narrowing in on who their suspects are. The descriptions of the men were released to the public, which was basically 2 white men in their mid-20s, one with a shaved head, the other with brown hair, carrying a small satchel, both times, and having the word ambition tattooed on his wrist. Yeah.
I'm so over Smich.
Yeah. No, it was Dellen.
Really?
Yeah. Smich is the shaved head. Dellen is the satchel ambition tattoo person.
I thought the satchel was Dellen. I thought the tattoo was Smich.
No, Dellen. Smich was like not described as much, I guess, because he was in the back seat. So both like Igor and Charlene got a better look at Dellen.
Okay. All right.
So very quickly, the description is like run on the news and everything, and it rings a lot of bells for a lot of people who know Dellen and Mark. And so by May 10th, the police were given the name Dellen Millard. On May 11th, Dellen is arrested and taken in for questioning about the disappearance of Tim's truck and Tim. He is still carrying Tim's car keys. He has them on his keychain in his pocket when he is arrested.
Oh, because I guess he got a new car out of it.
I guess.
Is he ridiculous?
He doesn't have the car with him, but he has the fucking keys in his pocket. So the police get search warrants for all the Millards' properties, including the home in Etobicoke, the farm in Ayr, the hangar in Waterloo, and Dylan's mom's house in Kleinburg.
Okay.
On Mother's Day, May 12th, happy Mother's Day, Dylan's mother.
Honestly.
Police find Tim's truck inside a trailer on Dylan's mom's property. So she had no knowledge of any of this.
Yeah, no doubt.
She didn't know any of the grisly details. Her son, who has tons of cars, just showed up with another car, stuck it in a trailer, said, I need to keep it on your property. Don't worry about it. So she's completely innocent in all this.
Yeah.
But it's on her property. They find it. They seize it. Obviously, it's Tim's fucking truck. So the police also find human remains at the farm property in and around the Eliminator.
I knew it.
Yeah. By May 14th, police were able to confirm that it was Tim's remains, and unfortunately, Tim was deceased.
So sad.
So Dellen at this time is now charged with Tim's murder. So Mark Smich is then surveilled for about a week and arrested on May 22nd. Both men are charged with first-degree murder. So at this time, Sean finds out that this is all going on with Dellen. Mm-hmm. So Sean calls the police, and he says, that is the fucking guy who was dating Laura and had been friends with Laura, and he had over 100 points of contact with Laura within the 8 days before she went missing, and as far as anyone knows, he's the last person to have seen her. So now you found out that he has murdered someone. Can you maybe look into this?
Oh my gosh.
So they do now put two and two together, and they decide, okay, we're going to look into this missing woman, Laura. Yeah. So during the searches of the Millard and Smich properties, they do find a number of Laura Babcock's belongings at Mark Smich's house in Oakville.
Oh my gosh.
I'm assuming it's mother's house.
Yeah.
They find her red duffel bag with her handwritten ID tag on it, and they find the iPad that Sean had given her that had the name changed to Mark's iPad.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Along with the frequent calls and texts between Dellen and Laura right up to the time of her disappearance, the cell phone locations of Laura, Dellen, and Mark's phones the days surrounding Laura's disappearance, as well as the seemingly endless details that all point to Dellen and Mark, the Toronto police decide that they're going to bring murder charges against Dellen and Mark in the case of Laura's disappearance as well. So the Hamilton police are charging him for Tim's murder. Yeah. And now the Toronto police have charged him for Laura's murder, or both of them for Laura's murder. But wait, there's more.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't end here.
All right.
6 months after Laura's disappearance, Dellen's father, Wayne Millard, was shot through the eye, and his death was ruled a suicide.
Really?
Uh-huh. In light of these other two murder charges connected to Dellen Millard, the police decide to take another look into Wayne's death and determine it was also pretty suspicious.
Again, new information. I did not know. I wasn't expecting that. That was a twist of a turn for me.
Yeah. So, Dellen is now charged with a third murder.
OMG.
Yeah. There's not a ton of info on this other than that it was discovered that Wayne and Dellen had been fighting about the family business leading up to this time.
Yeah.
And evidence was presented at the trial showing that Dellen had purchased the gun used to kill his father, and that all his phone location information put him at his father's house the night of the murder, or the night of the death, between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m.
OMG. What is that? It's not matricide. Patricide? Patricide? Is it patricide?
I think it's patricide. Yeah.
Okay.
So Justice Maureen Forstall, and she's the one that that ruled on this case. Yeah. And for some reason, I don't know why this happens, but there was no jury trial for Wayne's murder. Okay. It was only a judge presiding over it. Yeah. So her ruling basically was, this is a quote from her, she was satisfied that Dellen Millard had killed his father by shooting him in the left eye as he slept. I can find no theory consistent with innocence. He shot him through the eye with a shotgun while he was asleep.
First of all, I don't really know, the GAT situation, but that's a shotgun traditional. Doesn't it spray into different
I think you can
pieces?
Put different ammo in it. So it can have one giant bullet, or it can have
But it's a high, not high power, that's not the word.
It's a big ass gun with a big ass bullet.
Yeah, it's going to cause that's basically my point, yeah. And then to get it through the eye, what are you, a friggin' sniper?
I guess he just walked up to his sleeping father and held the gun over top of him and just shot him in the face.
So how could that be a suicide?
That's the thing. I guess they
really didn't do much.
No, they didn't take much of it. Yeah, they just were oh, well.
Did they find the gun? And then if they found the gun, it would have to be in a certain position. And a shotgun is pretty, to a shotgun's a long gun.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of true crime things where they're you would have to basically, unless it's like a sawed-off shotgun.
Yeah.
With a regular shotgun with a long barrel, you would have to like place it in front of you and then use like your toe or something else to pull the trigger.
I've always heard that.
Yeah.
That when people are shot with shotguns, it's never suicide because it's such a tricky, like, way to have to do it.
Yeah,
you know?
The mechanics of it are not simple. So, yeah, I don't know. They didn't think much of it, and they ruled it a suicide pretty quickly. And then it was only after this fucking kid is charged with 2 other murders that they were like, wait a minute. Maybe we should take a look into his very rich father that had no reason to kill himself.
Right?
Yeah.
And then if you're laying in bed, which means they would have found him in bed, no doubt.
Yeah.
I don't know. The whole thing, right off the bat, I would have been like, no. There's something else going on here. Let's take a little peek.
There's very little information about his murder and that trial, so I don't have much to tell you about it.
All right.
So the first trial that actually took place was Tim's murder trial. So Smich had a defense attorney, while the extreme narcissist Dellen opted to defend himself, despite plenty of money to hire an excellent attorney.
I knew it.
Why? Why do people do that?
I don't
They're
know.
So arrogant.
Wasn't it that guy that killed his daughter, I think it was, and he had the stupid hair?
He had the stupid hair.
He was all over social media. He's a black guy and he had stupid hair.
Is this in Toronto?
No, it was from the States.
His daughter, black guy, stupid hair.
I believe it was his daughter that was killed, and he was trying to he defended himself. I can literally see his stupid ass face right now.
And was he getting really like, was he like freaking out and stuff?
Yeah,
and yelling at everyone?
Was like,
yeah.
But he was trying to do it like in a point, like be like, da 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 da.
I told you this. Like he's seen on movies.
Yeah. And I was like,
They're like, you need to calm down. You need to be a little more orderly.
Oh my gosh. Stop representing yourself.
Yeah, don't represent yourself.
Even if you are a lawyer, you're the one that's in the situation. You're not going to think the same. You're not going to highlight the same.
Yeah, no lawyer would represent themselves.
Yeah, come on.
Like lawyers know better than that.
Ridiculous.
So Dellen and Mark blame each other at the trial. But on June 17th, 2016, both were convicted of first-degree murder and were sentenced to life without possibility of parole for 25 years.
And Carnage Island.
Yeah, that also. They specifically said, and then you will go to Carnage Island.
Literally. I saw it. It was in the news.
Laura's murder trial came next. Both men were again convicted and sentenced to life with no possibility of parole for 25 years. These sentences were to be served consecutively, so now they each had 50 years minimum. Okay. At this point, 2063 would be their first opportunity for parole. Okay. So Wayne's murder trial came next. Mark had nothing to do with this one.
Yeah.
So it's only Dellen that's being accused of this. So for this trial, Dellen does hire an attorney.
Oh, okay.
Right. But for some reason, like we said, I guess you wouldn't want a jury because everyone would know you so well at this point.
Yeah, at this point, I feel like, is this one triggering for you? Like, is this one difficult? Do you not have your wits about you with this one?
Well, and I guess you don't want a jury of your peers having anything to do with it, really. But regardless of hiring the attorney, he was again convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to another 25 years to be served consecutively, putting him at 103 years old in 2088 before he'd be eligible to apply for parole. So Mark and Dellen are both sent to Millhaven Institution, which is in Bath, Ontario. Okay. They're housed with other notable murderers that we know of, people like Paul Bernardo. And Bruce MacArthur, who we haven't done yet, but I will get to him. It's just a long story.
Yep.
So in 2021, this is just some follow-up stuff for you.
Yeah, because I was wondering. It doesn't end here. The news, so
doesn't end here. In 2021, I didn't hear about this until I literally wrote this yesterday, and this was the first time I heard about this.
Okay.
In 2021, Dellen was involved in a fight at Millhaven in which he restrained an inmate while another inmate stabbed him. Okay. The victim survived, but both of these other inmates were charged with assault causing bodily harm. The one that did the stabbing just pled guilty.
Yeah.
Dellen, of course, pled not guilty, but he was just convicted this month, like March 2023. He was convicted of assault causing bodily harm.
I mean, you're never getting out anyway, so it doesn't even matter. Why are you even putting people through the rigmarole?
So, in 2022, the Supreme Court of Canada decided consecutive parole ineligibility periods was unconstitutional.
Oh, gosh.
So, Dellen's 75 years and Mark's 50 years both now become 25 years.
All right.
So you can't now, you could have like 100 murder charges that all carry the same sentence, which would be a life sentence with a minimum of 25 years before parole eligibility.
Okay.
Now, instead of having these served consecutively, they have to be served at the same time.
Okay. I mean, I get the whole it's unconstitutional, but it's also unconstitutional to buy, what's it called again? Epulators?
The eliminator.
Eliminators, thank you.
Epulator. Like one of those things that like removes your hair.
In my head, I'm like, I know that you know exactly what I'm talking about based off of that. And throw people in there and be a serial killer. You've now killed 3 people that we know of.
Yeah, I think the motivation behind it was they were saying like it's like inhumane for people to have like zero hope. And then it also, because you're housing these inmates with inmates that will get out at some point, they were saying it's like, it's risky for the inmates who will get out to be housed with people who have absolutely no fucking hope in hell of ever getting out. Because those people have nothing to lose and they'll just do whatever.
I got it.
Yeah.
I literally just said it.
Yeah, so the way it works is like after your 25 years minimum, you can go before the parole board, but the parole board has complete jurisdiction and power over whether or not you're going to get out.
Yeah.
Dellen's never going to get out.
He's never getting out.
He's not getting out. When Dellen participated in holding that man so that he could be stabbed, presumably assuming they would be killing him.
Yeah.
It was a year before the Supreme Court rolls this back. So he thinks, well, I'm never getting out.
Yeah.
So what difference does it make if I participate in this next murder? Right? So maybe if he thought there was a possibility of him eventually getting out, maybe he wouldn't have participated in that.
It's just very ridiculous.
Yeah.
There's just certain people that it's like, look, I get it, but either way, you know you're staying there.
Yeah. Okay, so in the past week, like literally the week before right now, Dellen and Mark appealed all 5 convictions. The first ruling came back Friday, which was 2 days ago, and that was on Wayne's murder. And they affirmed his life sentence for killing his father. So 100%, he's definitely going to be in for at least 25 years.
Okay.
I think technically he's been in there for 10 years because they count the time that you spend in jail before your trial.
Yeah.
They count that as like time served or whatever. Oh, yeah. He represented himself at the appeal, and he spent 2 hours talking. And then the appeal board spent like 3 or 4 minutes.
Of course.
And then they came back and they were like, nope, sentence affirmed.
Good.
Yeah. So at this moment, we're still awaiting to hear the results of the other appeals, which would be both Mark and Dellen's appeals for Laura and Tim's murders.
No, you guys are saying that.
It's taking them longer to go over them. And so an appeal is basically whether or not they can have a new trial. So it's not like, okay, we appeal it and you're free.
Yeah.
So I don't think there's any question of whether or not Dellen, his life sentences will be affirmed. I think absolutely. And I think Mark's sentence for killing Tim will be upheld. But there is some question as to whether or not Mark was present when Laura was killed. Because if you think about it...
Yeah, I could say that, yeah.
What I think happened is that Dellen picked her up at the subway station. He brought her back to his house. She obviously was in his bed because he ordered a new mattress.
Yeah.
I think they probably had sex.
Yeah.
And then I think he shot her and killed her. And then I think Mark came over. I think Mark knew it was going to happen.
Yeah.
And then I think he came over right after and he helped dispose of her body and dispose of the mattress.
Yeah.
And then he helped him take the eliminator and take it to the farm, take the body to the farm, burn the body. I think he absolutely had everything to do with all of that.
I think 100% he was an accomplice for that portion. But you're right. I do think that he had, even if, actually, no, because Dellen being so Dellen-y, he would have said, I'm going to be doing this. And then it's going to be a dirty girl. Stupid.
Well, remember he had texted Mark and said, on a mission back in 1 hour.
Yeah.
So it was probably along the lines of like, come meet me at the house later.
What I think is that, because, for example, you never really know when Laura's going to contact you that she needs a place, or you don't really know if you can lure Laura there. So I think he probably would say, listen, this is what's going to happen. I'll let you know when so that you'll know.
Yeah.
And then
this is my plan. This is what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
So I think probably Mark is guilty of conspiracy to commit murder. And I think he's guilty of helping to dispose of the body afterwards.
Yeah, me too.
But I don't think he's guilty of the murder itself.
I would agree with that.
So I think probably what the outcome is going to be is that both of Dellen's sentences will be upheld. He'll have 3 life sentences, obviously, served at the same time. So in 15 years, he'll come up for parole and they'll deny him. But with Mark, I think they'll probably do another trial. I think they'll affirm his Tim Bosma sentence. I think they'll do another trial for Laura. And I think his murder charge will not be pursued. And I think they'll just have conspiracy charges against him. Or they might completely throw out any involvement for him with Laura because he already has 25 years. And he won't come up for parole until, 15 years from now. So maybe it's not even worth the money.
I would think that, I agree, but because in my mind, even if you didn't participate in the actual murder itself, I want to say this very loosely. Let me just preface this.
And keep in mind, it's not a matter of opinion. You have to base it on what the law specifically says.
And see, that's why we have Carnage Island.
Right. Because laws have little loopholes sometimes.
No, just because in my mind, it's that this person had just murdered this person. Now you're helping to dispose of this body.
You knew he was going to. You knew that he did
anything.
it.
You didn't help anything. And
probably helped him get the gun.
Yeah, because how would this quote unquote rich boy know who to contact, where to contact, whatever. He doesn't even know how to, you know what I mean? It all kind of just points to being one and the same. You might not have pulled the trigger, but you contributed to the death.
So that's what they said about Tim Bosma is because Mark and Dellen were blaming each other, they decided it really makes no difference which one of you pulled the trigger. You both were so involved in the plan that you're both equally culpable regardless of who pulled the trigger.
All right. And I would agree with that. Yeah.
So we're waiting to find out. I was hoping I would have the answer by today.
Oh, good story, not good story.
So that's the
roller coaster ride.
Yeah. So that technically he's a serial killer. Dellen. Yeah.
Because at first, when you first started, I thought it was just Laura.
Yeah.
Then I'm like, okay, Tim. Then his father too.
Yeah.
And that's what we know. And I always say, people generally don't start horrifically killing right off the bat.
Right, but
there's a lead up somewhere, somehow, even if it's animals
he would have been in his mid-20s. So that would make sense. He doesn't seem to have any, there's lots of pictures of him with his dog, snuggling with his dog. Nobody ever said anything about him. Literally, there's nothing. There's nothing about his childhood that seemed bad. Yeah. There's no indications of anything that could possibly lead to this.
He's just a psycho.
He's just a fucking... I don't understand people like this.
Sometimes people are just psychotic.
It's like you have everything handed to you on a silver fucking platter, and you never have to do anything, and you are somehow bored.
Yeah.
And then your boredom leads you down the path of...
That's what Mike Tyson said.
Wanting to murder people.
Yeah. Mike Tyson said rich and very wealthy people get bored easily because things that thrill the average everyday person.
Right.
They have access to all the money in the world, and they like it would be nothing for them to go buy a new car, go buy a house, go on a vacation. They could travel anywhere in the world.
Anywhere, anytime, anything you wanted to do.
You can buy anything. You can, and if you can't buy it, you can have somebody make it. You can tell people this is what I'm looking for. I need somebody that can do this. You can get it. So they do weird things that kind of fulfills that weird little thing in a person.
Yeah.
And one of the things was hunting people.
Yeah.
Releasing somebody that you've caught that volunteered for some money or whatever the case may be, and release them, and then they go and hunt them.
Yeah.
And they do kill them. And they do all kinds of sickery. Cannibal. That actor guy that was, he's been around lately because he's been talking about he wanted to eat a woman and all that.
What?
You know what I'm talking about?
Like, actually?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
I don't remember his name, but he's a disgraced actor, is what they've been calling him, because he basically said that he was like fetishizing cannibalism. He wanted to like eat a woman and all that kind of stuff. And the woman released like the messages of him like saying,
"Oh, Armie Hammer."
That's it. Oh. Yeah. They do weird stuff. All the ritualistic things that they do.
Oh, yeah.
It's all weird.
Weird.
Yeah.
He was like strangely attractive for a wannabe cannibal. Well, when you said cannibal, we just finished watching that show on Netflix, The Last of Us.
Oh, I've seen it. I don't watch it.
Yeah, we just finished watching it last night, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Where did you watch?
Free Guy?
Yeah,
Crave.
Oh, I don't have Crave.
Maybe I can give you my password for it. Okay, so that's the horrible story of the murder of Tim Bosma, Laura Babcock, and Wayne Millard.
Awful stuff. Awful stuff.
So yeah, well, I will keep you apprised on what goes on with the appeals.
Thanks for joining us.
We're trying to do these quick wrap ups now. I felt that you were going to go off on a long, slow close.
I was actually going to try to, be like, you didn't even give me a chance.
I just know you. I know you too well. I felt it. Coming on.
Well, thanks for joining us, everybody. It has been a real slice. We love having you.
Yes.
Join us every Tuesday and every other day.
That's right.
Yeah, we love you, and
bye. I let you do that one.